Hello, welcome to Seesar Gear. Today we're going to be talking about the Colossus Audio Zakal. And this monstrous beast is a spring reverb feedback soundscape generator. Now that's my description. That's not their tagline. I'm not sure exactly what their tagline is, to be honest. But that's what this does. It is a spring reverb, as you can see, and it has the capability to feedback, and you've got different electronic circuit units that give you possibilities to shape that feedback, which is exactly the kind of thing that we want to do in the noise music biz. So, I am going to try to tame this beast for you to give you some ideas of what can be done with it. And I literally just got it. It's brand new to me, so I haven't had as much time to play with it as I normally do with the things that I'm reviewing. However, I've had really good luck with the short time I've spent with it and a really good time playing it. So I wanted to discuss it, talk about it, because I was really on the fence about buying this. And as with all the gear that I've reviewed so far, none of it's been given to me for free. I always spend my own money. So it's not, I do it so that it's not influenced in any sense. Sometimes I know the makers or whatnot, but I know nothing about Colossus Audio. I know nothing about anything of this instrument other than the few demos that I'd seen online, and I saw somebody selling a demo version, like a showroom version, and I was like, okay, it's a little tiny bit cheaper. It wasn't cheap comparatively, I guess, and it wasn't a major discount, but I ended up paying about $300 for it, and I think it's going for about $349 or something. I guess I can check on that and put it in the description or something, or overlay text here or something. But that's a pretty, that's enough of an expense that I want to make sure it's something that I want. So I looked at it for a long time, several weeks. In fact, I eyeballed it for a long time. And strangely, it was still there after I had gone on tour this summer and then came back. So I opted to go ahead and fork out the money and see what I thought. And I'll start off with, I'm glad I did. I will say that it wasn't exactly how I was going to play it. Oh, let me rephrase. Let me start that sentence over again. I had an idea of how I was going to play it. I had an idea of how it would be played. Yet, that didn't meet that expectation, but I did find ways of using it. I did find that I do like it, so I am enjoying it. I am happy that I bought it, but I had to slightly change my mental approach to what I could do with it or how to use it. And now that I've done that, I'm having a blast with it. So I want to share what I am doing with it so that somebody else who might be interested in it can also make that decision whether or not to get it. Now, if I am going to be taking this on the road, that might be a different story as well. But at this point, since I'm just in my studio, I have lots of studio things to tell you about the way I'm playing it. And I do think that it might be a good thing to take out into a show, but it's such a dedicated thing. It's got a specific purpose, and that doesn't make it a one-trick pony particularly, but it does make it something that you have to be intending to incorporate into your sound, or it's probably not for you. It's not such a wide variety of things you can do with it that everybody's going to want one. It's a specific tool for specific people, and I just happen to be one of those people. So I do really think that it's great, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm really happy with it. I will use it. I've already got plans to incorporate it actually into a composition that I was working on last week. So it's getting a thumbs up, don't get me wrong, but I want to make that clear that it is something that is pinpointed with its functionality, and you gotta want what you're going to use it for. All right, let's do the thing that I always do is I want to talk a little bit about controls, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about physicality and a few other things with it. And then we'll make some noises, because noises are what we're all about. It has, first of all, it's got both an input and outputs. So you have multiple outputs, which I find interesting. They could have given us multiple inputs, but they give us multiple outputs. So I can translate this from mono to stereo if I want. I can pan it. I don't think it's actually stereo, but I haven't tried that, so I don't actually know. Well, you do have a delay unit that could be stereo, and you do have an EQ unit that could be mapped into a panned situation. I'm not sure. I'll have to test that and see. I'm sorry I didn't do that before the video. However, I can, for me, it does have usefulness to have a dual channel out, so I can either send it to two different things or send it to two different panned situations and not simulate stereo, but actually generate stereo. So that's a bonus for me. You have this preamp that gives, its energy to the springs, and that also increases the input volume that goes to the springs. Then you have a wet dry, which obviously is wet dry, but it's not just wet dry for the spring reverb. It seems to be wet dry for the delay unit as well. We'll test that. But when the springs are going and you turn it back, you can reduce energy from the springs, which is useful, but I do believe that it also trims back on the feedback and the regen of the delay. Speaking of which, the next three are the feedback, the delay unit, and there's typical feedback, how much delay you're giving something, how much the regeneration occurs, and then they have it listed as lag. It's the time control. So you have, fast or slow distances between the regenerated feedback elements. And this works wonderfully in two different situations, one of which is actually physically touching the springs and getting an attack from the springs that will trigger the feedback delay unit. Or you also have a cutoff, which is next, and sometimes when you adjust the cutoff or even the lag within the delay, you end up getting a different attack back on the delay unit, which is useful because a lot of this is manipulating the attack, delay, sustain, and making those work in your favor to keep the balance. It's a juggle. It's a, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's a balancing act that you have to kind of keep the energy transferring correctly to the different circuits so that you continuously get a sound, and you can sustain that sound as long as you don't mind it transforming, or you can sustain the sound if you find one that works and just let it go. You can have a nice ad infinitum kind of sound. Anyway, okay, I'm going to come back to that because I have more thoughts on that. The next thing is the filter. Basic stuff. It's got a cutoff frequency. It's got a resonance. Now, I will say that I don't feel like the resonance has a wide range, or maybe it's asymptotic. I mean, logarithmic, because it definitely doesn't engage as much as I would have expected it to until you really get it high in the towards the end of its clockwise rotation. That being said, there are some things that work with less wet signal more succinctly than when you have more wet signal. So that's something that maybe I can test in a minute. But what I mean by that too is that, like, you'll have your reverb going with the springs, and then you change some stuff and it's kind of washy and it goes over top of each other, and you can hear it, but it's not a drastic sound change. And then you just reduce the wet dry mix just a little bit, just enough to add a little bit more dry signal in, and that gives you the grip, the sonic grip needed to trigger the filter or the delay unit. So that's what you got over here. The last little bit is an EQ, and it is, my understanding is post everything. So basically it goes to the out and then to the last 3 EQ knobs and then out. And I will say they just seem to be boosts. There's not reduction. So if you have everything lined up and you have everything down all the way, it's a lower volume, but it's kind of the same EQ. And then you can boost with the individual bands, but it's still effective. There's still things you can do with it. You can change your timbre quite nicely enough that this is a good addition to the design. And the one thing I find a little strange is it's high, low, and medium, mid range. And what I'd like to have seen was reverse some of these so that they're in order. But I have to keep reminding myself, oh yeah, the mid range is at the end. So keep that one in mind. Then you have the springs themselves, and they are durable. They're single springs, not 2 springs latched together like you might get with a guitar amp spring reverb. And as a result, you can actually physically touch them and not be too concerned about having something bad happen to them, having them get damaged. They're nice and solid. Now, what I will say is you don't want to yank on them and pin them down, but you can still give it a pop so that the bottom does actually hit the board. But you can be very gentle with them as well. They don't have to touch anything. You can, I do things like, scrape stuff across it, which of course gives you harsh or repetitive, like little rhythmic elements to it. There's probably lots more that you can do with the springs that I haven't explored yet, but it's okay to physically interact with them, which is, I think, a bonus, and that is not exactly what you can do with other spring reverb units. I'm looking, you can't see me because I'm off camera. Ooh, spooky, I'm disembodied hands. Over here is my huge modular setup, and I have 3 spring reverbs in containers of different sizes over here. And I think they all, even the smallest one, has dual springs on each channel, and that's something. So this to me is really nice, and it's well thought out. Now you got these 2 buttons here, and I have to admit I haven't been able to figure these out for any reasons whatsoever. This one says H and S. it doesn't seem to make a difference no matter what I do with it. So I don't know that, I'm assuming there's nothing broken, nothing else is broken. So what exactly does this stand for? I don't know. I'm going to research it and find out. But I've already researched it with no avail. Not even on the Colossus Audio website does it actually say, that's what this button does. It supposedly has an online manual. It comes with a little card that says we've saved paper, so everything's online. And it does explain everything else, but it doesn't tell you what this button is. So I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to, it's going to be something stupid. I'm going to go, oh, this stands for Harold and Susie or something. You know, I'll figure out what H and S stands for and go, great. Why the heck didn't I think of that before? But that's the nature of working with Seesar. There are definite pockets of stupidity that come out of my brain hole or get absorbed by it or something. Now the other button is this engages, as far as I can figure out, this engages the effects unit and the spring reverb together. And if you have it the other direction, it's just the spring reverb. But this also gives it a quite a significant energy boost that almost always, for me at this point, has turned it into a much higher volume feedback. So I haven't actually used this button very much. I've maybe done some little accents with it or something, but again, I'll research and find out what I'm doing wrong with that, or maybe I'm not doing anything wrong. We'll see. But I've just kept it to the Zakal side, and things have been fine. Let's see. So other little bits about this. It's not really in a case. It's two PCB boards with spacers, and then there's a third half riser PCB with all the components and stuff on the inside. So this reminds me of the Synthux Academy Simple Designer setup, and it's almost the same size actually as the Audrey 2. I'll have to double check that and see. Maybe it's exactly the same size. And it also reminds me of the Audrey 2. Now, I don't know if you've seen my review on that, but I have a discussion of the Audrey 2, which I also absolutely love. I mean, that one's super brilliant, but it's entirely digital. This is entirely analog, or at least the spring reverb part is obviously analog. So something that I find very useful actually is that one emulates feedback digitally, and you have almost the same controls, and then this one is the physical feedback, and I would like to see how they compare or work together, because you can put the Audrey into this. The Audrey doesn't have any outside source input possibilities, but since you can do it with this one, I'd like to try the two of them together, maybe for some sort of completely maddening feedback looping blowout. But I do think that you can learn from the Audrey and play the Zakal, because the Audrey 2 has two things that are very important for its performativity, one of which is you move really slowly. Nothing changes quickly. You don't want to go meow, some sort of quick movement and expect an immediate response. What happens is there's a slow buildup. It's a feedback simulator. It has to build up the feedback loop. So everything's kind of slowly merges into each other. And then the other thing is subtle movements in general make big changes. And that's exactly what you get with this. Now, the changes might actually be quicker than what you have with the Audrey 2, but the subtlety is the key, because if you're moving just an absolute hair, just almost just barely touching a knob, you might get a severely different sound that flows from one to the other, which is to me, performatively interesting. I don't think something where you're trying to create a enormous black hole of sound doesn't necessarily need rapid changes, but it can, of course, and that's certainly not out of the question. But I really like the fact that you can move really slowly and have things just kind of flow and ebb into each other, which is really nice. Now, something that I'm going to do first is I'm going to make some sounds without an input, and later I'm going to just pop in the Captain Credible Blooper Eel and give it some pretty dry synthesized oscillations and let the magic take over, because you can take these nice but very dry science fiction-y sounds, put them into this, and get a whole different universe of stuff happening that I think is very interesting. All right, let's make a couple of sounds here, and I'll show you how things go with Zakal with no input. So to start with, obviously you don't need to put the input in at all, but I do turn up the preamp because that will excite the springs eventually and turn up the wetness. And if I have it like this, you're not getting any sound, but you can start to make sound with the springs once you turn it up. But the key, sorry, I had to do that. The key is taking the feedback and start giving yourself some of the delay unit, or the reverb-ish sound. So that's just a feedback. And obviously that's the time. Pretty fun right there. So you're getting some modulation overlaps with difference in time. All right, so now I'm just subtly changing the time. I'm adding and subtracting a little bit of regen, and I can start introducing some cutoff changes. And I've got the resonance up pretty high. And this is why if the resonance goes out, it's kind of starts everything over again. It has to settle into its reverberated stage. There you go. Okay. Sorry, I told you I got a little lost in it. Some of that might have been a little subtle. I'm not sure if that's going to come through on camera or not, but we're going to try and make sure that it does. I probably should be a little bit more professional and send this through like a DAW and record it and then mix it in. But instead, I'm just playing it through an amp across the room. Yeah, let's do one other test, just really briefly. I'm going to bring in the old Captain Credible here, and I'm going to do my trick where it's got, I don't know if you're familiar with the blooper eel or not, but it's got an interrupt button to create sound. And so I like to clamp it down with a close peg and then use that, later I can create a sustained sound and mess with it and then take it off later to do other stuff. So that's what I'm gonna do. Let's give this a spin with the Captain Credible. Oops. If I can get my clothespin to work. There we go. All right, here we go. Let's play around one more time. Okay, there you have it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Zakal. It's the Zakal, obviously this time with the Captain Credible Blooper Eel, and I hope you were able to see that you could get a pretty good range of sounds out of it, and it could do lots of really cool stuff. It is a little bit of a ballet dance. You have to kind of feel out what's about to swell into out of controlness and then reel it back in or shift it to something else. I would also say that it probably needs a compressor on the other end, because the sounds spike or the sounds dip in volume, and I could potentially be creating something much more entertaining or useful by running it through something that helps regulate the volume swells a little bit. You don't want to take too much of the dynamics away. You don't want to squish it to nothingness with a compressor, but maybe having that little extra bit of control is also a bonus. So anyway, this is it. I absolutely love it. I'm definitely super pleased that I was able to pick one up a little bit cheaper than other places. It's certainly been lots of fun. The brief amount of time that I've had it, I'll work with it more and introduce other things into it. I've tested it with a musical saw. I've tested it with a neutron. I've tested it with what else did I put a picture on something? A flute. And next in line is going to be the my brain is the Synthux Audrey 2, Synthux Academy Audrey 2. I'll definitely try it with that, and then I've got a few other goodies that I want to test with it as well, like the bent time drive, and I've got a couple other new toys showing up, and I'll see how these work. So maybe I'll make some more videos of using it with different things, but you can see that it's valuable as a sound source, it's valuable as a reverb unit, it's valuable as something that you can physically take and interact with. It's not just a knobby knob twist or button pushing. It's in my opinion more performative than some of similar things where you just push a button. So you'll know now if it's good for you or not. If you're a performative type person and want something like this, this is great. If you have a lot of gear and you don't have space for it, well, maybe you want to rethink it, but I would not turn it down. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous piece of gear, and I'm super glad I bought it. All right, thank you so much for watching. You know the drill. If you want to catch other videos like this, you can check out SeesarMusic.com/gear. You can see other things on the YouTube channel where you are right now. You can also check out the Instagram pages, the Seesar_music for music and composition stuff, and Seesar_gear for more previews of this kind of thing. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.